Hello everyone, hope you're right. In today's video, I'm going to show you the transformation of my small home urban garden that happened over the year in 2023. We moved into this house towards the end of January 2023 and we have had this small garden with lawn and small borders with mature shrubs and trees and a patio. I decided to do some transformation. So I started my work by digging out the lawn. First, I made a sketch of what I want. I like to grow vegetables, I like to grow flowers, I like to grow fruit trees. So I decided I want to grow all sorts of things in this small home urban garden. So how can I manage that? I did a lot of research, checked online for garden designs, watched the pattern of sun, where it is sunny and where is shade. So I found out that my backyard garden is mostly a shade garden. But I didn't give up. So I dug up the lawn, leaving a small circular patch of grass. I decided to make a pathway from patio to this circular lawn where I will build my arches. I decided to install 3 raised beds, and basically I focused on the circular lawn and then I went along the circular lawn. I didn't waste the grass I dug up, so I used the grass to fill up the raised beds. We did all this work by ourselves. So you can see the transformation that's happening. This is pretty good size lawn and I left a 3 by 3 meter circular lawn and installed 2 raised beds which were 3 by 3 feet each. So I wanted to grow vegetables and this was the part of the garden which received the most sunlight. So I decided I would grow my strawberry plants in one raised bed and would use the other 2 for growing vegetables. This was not easy to design this garden by myself as I'm not a garden design expert. I have done a little bit of study and research and learned few things over the years since I first started gardening from small pots. We built up this arch. We ordered it from Forest Garden. It was really good quality. Actually, we ordered 2 of them. So this was the most expensive thing which we installed, the first thing in this garden. My husband did this job for me and I'm really grateful to him for doing this work. So garden is taking the shape I imagined and tried to draw a sketch of it. Here you can see it took few weeks because it was January and February and the weather was really cold and it wasn't really easy to go outside in the garden in rain or in frosty weather to dig up the lawn and to plant things. Here you can see the trees and shrubs that were already there. I'm so grateful for all these trees and shrubs and whoever planted them because they did a really good job. There is lots of evergreen interest, as you can see. There is lots of year-round interest with these beautiful trees. I have got 2 apple trees, I have got amelanchier, lilac, red photonia robin, bay laurel, esclonia, and much more. So this is the finished look of the garden by the end of March. We got this beautiful circular lawn with a beautiful pathway and these gorgeous arches, and we installed paving slabs made from reclaimed tire. I planted small box bushes around the circular lawn so it will be a nice hedge in few years, and I installed these beautiful paving stones, circular paving stones made of concrete. We got them made locally, and there are 10 or 11 of them, so we can maneuver around the garden. So by the end of March, I already prepared my raised beds, filled them up with grass which were dug from the garden, and some compost, and planted my strawberry plants. I also got this beautiful bird bath from the same supplier who made the circular paving stones for us, and I wanted to have it as a centerpiece, but I couldn't really find a good place for it to go in the garden, and I decided to put it here where I could see it better by this beautiful red photonia bush. I brought these grow bags where I have got garlic from my last garden, and I started planting more and more stuff in the garden. I brought some trees with me which were in the containers, and some plants which I started last year in autumn from seeds. So as the weather got better, I started planting around the garden. I planted apple and plum tree and my grapevines, and I started my seeds towards the end of February, and in March I like to grow most of this stuff from seeds, veggies and flowers. So I started sowing the seeds, and first I grew them in my windowsill, which was east and south facing, so it received the most sunlight. With the start of spring, evergreen bushes brought a new life to the garden. Schemia started blooming beautifully. I also had these few patches in my front yard where I had a beautiful palm tree and few evergreen bushes and gravel. So I decided to plant more things here. I planted rose bushes, some perennial plants, some bare roots, and I brought in some containers which I planted with spring interest and summer interest, and I did some work on the plants which were already in here. This was the container from my previous garden where I have got tulips coming out already. I flanked my entryway with these containers which I had in my previous garden with junipers in them, and I bought some hanging baskets to hang in my front yard for an immediate spring interest. And I bought my containers and grow bags where I planted my tulips and daffodils last year, and they were already starting to bloom. Previous owners left these beautiful containers here, so I decided to plant them with evergreens and these beautiful primroses. And I planted my peony plants here, and another cherry tree I bought to go in this patch with these evergreen bushes, and a standard rose tree and few more bare root plants. So spring was in its full glory with all these red robin petunias and evergreen bushes blooming beautifully with their new beautiful leaves and flowers, and daffodils and tulips blooming, and the trees sprouting. So I kept planting as the spring progressed. I planted my ranunculus and anemones which I brought from my previous garden. I bought more plants to go in the garden, and the seeds which I had started already, some of them were ready to go in the garden. I bought 4 varieties of hydrangeas to go in my garden, few in the backyard and few in the front yard. I planted more containers with summer flowering plants and evergreens, and they were already looking so beautiful. So by the end of June, I had these lettuce plants to harvest. And some juicy, ripe, red strawberries which I started harvesting before the birds got to them. Lilac bush was all covered in beautiful white fragrant blooms, and the containers which I planted were looking so marvelous, coming into full glory with the temperatures rising and the summers kicking in. Everything was looking so lush and bright. My pepper plants and my eggplants were going nice and strong. The baskets which I hung in spring were so nice and beautiful. Ranunculus was looking absolutely gorgeous. It was worth the effort to plant them in autumn and bring them with me in this new garden. And anemones were not behind in the competition of looking beautiful with the ranunculus. This rose bush was already in this garden planted by previous owners, and it was all covered in beautiful, gorgeous rose flowers which would start peachy and would turn pink as they age. Then it started raining and raining and raining, and it kept raining all summer long. The garden was enjoying the rain, but the veggies struggled a lot. But I still had few things to harvest. I had this mint with me for many years in these containers, which I harvest every summer and then freeze them and enjoy them all year long. They come back every year nice and strong for me. And the garlic plants which I brought with me from my previous garden in these grow bags and containers. They were not really huge because they were ignored for a long time when I was setting up my garden, but I still had a really good harvest. Plants were growing nice and strong, looking lush and beautiful. The plants which I started from seeds, the plants which I started from bare roots, and the plants which I bought as plug plants, all looking nice and beautiful. I brought this jasmine vine with me and planted with this arch, and it was filling up beautifully, and the grapevines and all the summer flowering annuals were coming in blooms. The garden beds were looking nice and beautiful, and the paving stones, and I was really happy with the transformation I did. It gave me the opportunity to plant more things in my garden and to enjoy all sorts of colors and textures, and I have had few harvests here and there. Box bushes put on some growth as well and were filling up nicely, and the lavender plants were blooming beautifully, and the tomato plants which I planted in raised beds were growing nice and strong, and I really enjoyed maneuvering around the garden on these circular paving slabs. Things were small but so beautiful. I decided to plant hostas and hydrangea and heuchera in this shady corner of the garden. And the seeds I started earlier this year, chrysanthemums, dianthus, and much more, were now becoming beautiful big plants and starting to bloom. Climbing rose I planted alongside this arch was coming into blooms, and their blooms were so beautiful. The garden was lush and vibrant thanks to all the rain. And the front yard was looking beautiful with lots of curb appeal with these beautiful containers which I planted with evergreens and annuals. The rain wouldn't stop until I started losing my tomatoes to the blade. So I decided to harvest them early when they were still green. But flowering plants such as impatiens, coleus, begonias really liked the rain, and all my containers were so nice and beautiful. Petunias did suffer a little bit. Towards the end of August, the garden was just so grown. I couldn't imagine that it was the same garden which was just the lawn with few bushes and trees, and now you could see how beautiful it was. At the peak of summer, with so many colors and textures and so many interest in the garden, with these beautiful arches, climbing plants, flowering plants, fruit trees, veggies, and so much growing their heads off. And the front yard didn't lose in the race, with this beautiful standard rose tree all covered in beautiful fragrant blooms, and so many beautiful containers and lots of evergreen interest. And these beautiful rudbeckia plants and so many other perennials which were still nice and small but would fill up the garden in coming years. Towards the end of summer, when other plants started fading a little bit, the geraniums were blooming beautifully with their marvelous vibrant colors. And the hardymums coming into bloom. Coleus didn't miss a beat this year. I was so happy with how beautifully it performed. And so many self-sown pansies. They were just for free, looking beautiful. Heucheras filled up the patch really well. With autumn kicking in, these beautiful heather plants started blooming. They were small but big on beauty. And I have had loads of things to harvest: zucchinis, cucumbers, potatoes, tomatoes, apples, peppers, few eggplants, loads of beans. Although I gave up towards the end of summer that I wouldn't have any harvest because of how much it rained throughout the summer, but still the things made up. It was the first year. I didn't expect much. I did a lot of work to develop this garden. I had big plans that it would look beautiful in the coming years, and I have learned a lot about the microenvironment I have had in this small urban garden, and I have new hopes now to grow much more in coming years. I have changed my perspectives a little bit. Now I want to grow more flowering plants and less veggies, but I wouldn't give up totally. I would still grow the things which performed well this year. It was a hard gardening year in UK anyway. And the first year in a new garden is always risky because you don't know the microenvironment, you don't know the sun patterns, you don't know your soil. It takes time to understand and to connect to your land, to your garden, and to understand what can perform and what you have to give up. So I would say it was 80% success with how beautiful the garden looked and with how well the plants performed. I now have new perspectives, new inspirations, new ideas for this garden, and I would keep developing it until I'm really satisfied with how good it looks and how best it performs. I already had started planting for the next year. I had planted my spring flowering bulbs. I have bought more evergreens and perennials to go in the garden. And I will keep planting and keep working on this beautiful piece of land I have had. And I hope that you will accompany me in my journey to develop and transform this garden, and you will stay with me to watch it growing and filling in and changing throughout the year from spring to summer to autumn to winter. This garden is my garden. I really adore it. I love it and I dream about it. I dream it to look beautiful. I dream it to look vibrant. It's a place where I go and I just leave all the worries and all the thoughts behind. I just think about the garden. I just think about the plants and I talk to them and I listen to them. I look for them what they need from me. I look for their beauty. I admire them for their beauty. I want them to grow, and you want them to, don't you? So keep watching, stay tuned. So this garden can achieve the heights of excellence it has the potential for. Rain, snow, storm, wind wouldn't stop it from growing. It would keep growing and looking beautiful. This snow will melt soon and the garden will be vibrant again. Seasons keep changing and so does the life and so does the garden. It evolves and it achieves what it is meant to achieve. And we achieve all the happiness and joy and satisfaction. So keep watching, and I will bring you another beautiful, vibrant picture of this garden very soon. See you next time. Bye bye.